The News Watch never stops. This is 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Cloudy, 43 degrees. It's 4:40. Good afternoon on the show. Kabbalah, here's what's happening. Contract negotiations still happening with the possibility of nurses going on strike at 5 major hospitals here in the city starting tomorrow morning. A custody dispute has the NYPD searching for a Bronx woman who vanished with her 9-month-old. A protest in Midtown today following the fatal shooting of a Minneapolis woman by an ICE agent. The U.S. launches more airstrikes in Syria. A drone show happens this evening on the Greenpoint waterfront. We'll give you the details. NFL wildcard. The Bills beat the Jaguars 27-24. Chargers Patriots happens at 8:15. On the ice, what happened with the Devils in Winnipeg? Let's see. The Devils lost. Nets Grizzlies in action. Knicks Trailblazers at 6. Wins News Time, 4:41. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Andre Farrow.
Let's go to the Bronx. If you're traveling on the eastbound side of the Cross Bronx, right around Jerome area, disabled vehicle there knocking out the right lane. So that's having a bad effect on the inbound George Washington Bridge. And here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. That's going to cost you 25 minutes heading inbound now to George because of that Cross Bronx incident. Now, if you're traveling outbound George Washington Bridge, around 15 minutes, and it's mostly Cross Bronx delays. Lincoln Tunnel outbound is around 15. Inbound is just about 10. And about 15 minutes on the outbound side of the Holland. Inbound will cost you around 15 because of 139 delays through Jersey City heading eastbound. Look out for a slowdown on the southbound side of Tunnelly Avenue as you head south of Manhattan Avenue, heading towards the Circle where there's a stall knocking out one lane in Jersey City. Brooklyn Bridge, Brooklyn bound, lots of volume there. Belt Parkway is tightening as you travel between Flatbush Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue heading eastbound. There's more delays east right by Bay 8th. So if you're using the Verrazano Bridge into Brooklyn, look out for delays on the eastbound belt as you make your way over by that area of Bay 8th and Coney Island Avenue. Now, if you're traveling on the eastbound side of the BQE, you better quickly exit before you get to Queens Boulevard because we have a stall knocking out one lane. Andre Farrow, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
5 major hospitals here in the city are preparing for a possibility of a nurses' strike.
Now, let's say you're a patient that still needs care. Well, word from the Nurses Association, still go get the help you need. But their president, Nancy Hagan, says
nearly 15,000 nurses are set to strike.
The latest, no negotiations made. Hagan says her bosses were MIA Saturday and
refused to bargain late.
But here's what happened.
Management has spent little time with mediators and at the bargaining table, showing that they have little interest in settling.
She says management's pushing for nurses to strike, but they just want nurse protection, safer staffing, and better health care. Amanda Alexander, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
Hagan says without a new contract, a strike will begin tomorrow morning at 6 at Mount Sinai and 7 at other facilities. In addition to Mount Sinai's 3 locations, contracts have yet to be struck for Montefiore Medical Center and New York Presbyterian. Former governor of New Jersey and the state's longest-serving state lawmaker, Richard J. Cody, has died. He started his career as a state assemblyman in 1973, moved to the Senate in 1983. The Essex County native served as the 53rd governor of Jersey, taking the helm after the resignation of Jim McGreevey. Cody bid farewell to the New Jersey Senate after his distinguished 50-year career that also saw him serve as Senate president.
For me, it's been a lifetime of complete enjoyment and something I will never forget. I don't know how many years I have left. I hope a long time. But we all can understand and appreciate the position we're in and what we can do.
Richard Cody was 79. The NYPD is looking for a Bronx woman who's accused of taking her own baby in a custody dispute. Cops say Alexandria Quinones, 29, fled with her 9-month-old daughter on Friday. She was visiting her child at the baby's home in the Bronx. Thousands of people protesting a No Kings March in Midtown. Protests have been held for days around the country following the fatal shooting of a Minneapolis woman by an ICE agent.
This weekend, tens of thousands took to the streets in anti-ICE demonstrations nationwide. In Minneapolis, braving sub-freezing weather to mark where 37-year-old Renee Nicole Macklin Good was shot and killed by an ICE agent.
Days after the fatal shooting, you can see that hundreds of protesters are still showing up. Minneapolis is a city still on edge. They're saying immigrants are welcome here, demanding answers and a fair investigation.
That's Nicole Skanga reporting. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem defended the ICE agent again today on CNN's State of the Union.
The facts of the situation are that the vehicle was weaponized and it attacked the law enforcement officer. He defended himself and he defended those individuals around him.
The NYPD still looking for a second suspect in Friday's stabbing death of a 17-year-old boy who was walking home from school. One 17-year-old has already been arrested for the crime. Jose Argudo died after police say two attackers stabbed him in the neck on Jamaica Avenue in Woodhaven Friday afternoon. He was 3 blocks from his home. It's not clear why Argudo was attacked. The MTA is considering using artificial intelligence in the transit system to detect weapons and monitor unattended items. The agency put out a call for tech providers to submit their proposals by December 30th. MTA Security Chief Michael Kemper has said AI is the future, but there are concerns over privacy risks and tracking capabilities. Jerome Greco with the Legal Aid Society spoke to 1010 Wins about whether AI is unbiased.
People think incorrectly that AI can't have these issues because it's a computer, but they don't realize that it's being programmed by people who have biases and issues, and it's being programmed on data that has biased data that has been collected by people or been fed to it by people.
Yeah, just look at what's happening with Grok. Kemper says the MTA understands the concerns over AI video analytics, but he described it as a tool to enhance human decision-making. The U.S. has launched more strikes against ISIS targets in Syria.
The U.S. Central Command released a video of U.S. military aircraft taking off right before the new airstrikes on Syria Saturday afternoon Eastern Time. Retaliatory strikes targeted the Islamic State group following last month's ambush that killed 2 U.S. soldiers and a U.S. civilian interpreter in the country. Jordan says its military joined the U.S. in Saturday's strikes. The U.S. Central Command issued a statement saying, "Our message remains strong. If you harm our warfighters, we will find you and kill you anywhere in the world, no matter how hard you try to evade justice." I'm Donna Warder.
A drone show on the Greenpoint waterfront this evening. I'll tell you about that, but first, Wins News Time 4:51. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Andre Farrow.
And we have some drama in New Jersey. If you're traveling on the New Jersey Turnpike, interchange 14, there's a crash right by the interchange. Left lane is blocked right out the outside exit of interchange 14. And if you're using 78 westbound right by the New Jersey Turnpike toll plaza in Newark, we have the left lane knocked out with a crash. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. Well, inbound George Washington Bridge, about 15. It's mostly because of that crash on the eastbound side of the Cross Bronx by Jerome Avenue. Outbound's around 15 as well, but it's mostly Cross Bronx delays that you're dealing with. The southbound Bronx River Parkway, slow from the zoo down to the Cross Bronx, and the westbound side is going to be slow right by White Plains Road on the Cross Bronx. Southbound 95, Bartow Avenue, in front of Co-op City, you're dealing with volume heading down towards Pelham Parkway. And there's a westbound stall on the Cross County Parkway just west of Route 22 in Mount Vernon. And that's what's causing that extra delay round trip at the Cross County Parkway in Yonkers, Mount Vernon area. Outbound Lincoln, that's going to run you 25 minutes. Seems like it's increasing heading back to New Jersey. And around 15 of the outbound Holland, both inbound, are just about 10 minutes. Look out for big delays as you travel southbound Cross Island, down towards Northern Boulevard, southbound Clearview, down to Hillside Avenue in the Grand Central. You're going to need some extra time in Queens. Andre Farrow, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
Now the AccuWeather forecast with meteorologist John Feerick.
Looking at winds Doppler radar, we've got a couple of snow showers out there. Most of those at this point to the north and west of the city, moving through northern New Jersey, Hudson Valley. Temperatures well above freezing, so really not expecting anything as far as slippery roads, but that's going to drop the visibility, at least in a few places. So definitely keep that in mind if you encounter that. Windy and cold for tonight, down to 31. Then for tomorrow, mostly sunny, but a breezy, chilly day, high 41. Partly cloudy tomorrow night, down to 35. Sunshine for Tuesday, we're up to 46. And then Wednesday, mostly cloudy, up to 48. It's still dry Wednesday, but a potential coastal storm could bring some rain or snow as we head into Thursday night. High Thursday, no better than the low 40s. Right now in Central Park, 43 and partly cloudy, going down to 31 tonight in Midtown. I'm AccuWeather's John Feerick on New York's weather station, 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM.
Hey, if you're in North Brooklyn, or you're going to be in like an hour, take a look up in the sky. If you're near the Greenpoint waterfront, you should be able to see a light show put on by 300 drones. It's organized by the Children's Miracle Network. Amy Daly is president and CEO. She tells 1010 Winds.
The whole purpose is to rally our community all across the United States and Canada to champion health for all kids.
So it's going to be a 12-minute light show above the Greenpoint waterfront starting at 6:15 this evening. Grateful Dead fans are in mourning. Co-founder Bob Weir has died of cancer. He was 78.
Weir was known for his improvisation and served as the mastermind behind some of the group's greatest classics. Together, the band would perform over 2,300 concerts, sell over 35 million albums, and become Hall of Fame inductees.
Andrew Deinbert reporting. Meta is denying there's been a breach of its system after reports of an Instagram data leak. Cybersecurity firm Malwarebytes says more than 17 million Instagram user accounts were compromised, exposing sensitive personal info to the dark web, including usernames, email addresses, phone numbers, physical addresses too. Cybersecurity experts continue to investigate how the data was leaked and whether the breach resulted from a vulnerability in Instagram systems or through a third-party service. I'm going to tell you about this now. The mayor of Minneapolis talking about the allegations of fraud in state programs. On NBC's Meet the Press, Jacob Fry spoke about Governor Tim Walz's response.
Look, obviously, everybody could have done more to prevent fraud, and I think that's a fair point to make. You do more to prevent fraud, and you look what he's doing right now. He's setting up a whole bunch of infrastructure to do that. And by the way, look, the fraud's real. We've all got to acknowledge it. The fraud is very real.
In 2022, federal prosecutors said they uncovered a scheme in the Somali community to defraud a pandemic meals program. The Trump administration has recently used that as part of the justification for an ICE crackdown in Minneapolis. A new study says everyday chemicals may disrupt healthy gut bacteria and in some cases drive them toward antibiotic resistance.
A lab study has found that 168 widely used chemicals found in pesticides and plastics can damage bacteria that keep the human gut healthy. Cambridge University scientist Stefan Kamrad.
A substantial number of chemicals were toxic against these bacteria, and that meant they reduced their growth by 20% or more.
There's worry that some gut bacteria is becoming resistant to antibiotics after exposure.
We really need to consider the impact all these different chemicals have on bacteria in our gut, on bacteria in the environment, on bacteria in nature more general.
And he suggests clean all fresh produce before eating.
Brad Gibson reporting. It's 43. The low tonight in Midtown, 31. Now Bloomberg Money Watch.
One of the challenges facing retailers this year is an uncertain consumer.
About 4 out of 10 tell us that they are very pessimistic about their financial future.
Wendy Liebman is the CEO of WSL Strategic Retail, which tracks what's on the minds of shoppers.
And another 4 out of 10 who's saying I'm afloat, but not great.
There's also the employment outlook.
Do I have to worry about my job? Is it one more thing? I bounced from tariffs and inflation. Now do I have to worry about my job when it comes to things like AI?
And all of that uncertainty has seen higher-end consumers trading down.
You walk into an Aldi parking lot or drive into an Aldi parking lot and you will now see a Lexus, a BMW, not because people couldn't afford to be at, Whole Foods or wherever else, but because they're smart too.
Our next reading on the health of the retail industry comes this week when we get new data on retail sales. I'm Charlie Pellet, Bloomberg Money Watch on 1010 Winds at 92.3 FM.
1010 Winds. Credible, reliable.
They are the voice of New York.
The station you know, the people you trust.
1010 Winds. At 92.3 FM.
WINS FM in HD1 New York. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
More people get their news from 1010 Winds than from any other radio station in the nation. Eileen LaPalmer is our writer. Gary Souter at the editor's desk, and I'm Asho Kabbalah.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM, New York.
Good afternoon, 43 degrees, cloudy skies at 5 o'clock. I'm Donna Vaughn.
Here's what's happening on this Sunday afternoon. Nurses at 3 of the city's biggest hospitals say they're ready to walk off the job tomorrow.
1 day away from the biggest nurse strike.
The nurses union says the latest talks have produced little progress. Mayor Mamdani looking to speed up some bus rides in Manhattan. His administration announcing a bus lane redesign today on Madison Avenue. Tensions with Iran. President Trump's threat to attack that country again has prompted a threatening response from a top Iranian official. Well, it's been a year, but the recovery has been slow for victims of the California wildfires, not just physically and financially, but mentally. And don't forget to look up tonight in Brooklyn. Hundreds of drones will fly over the Greenpoint waterfront and put on a dazzling light show a little over an hour from now. NFL wildcard games today. The Bills eliminated Jacksonville with a 27-24 victory. And now it's the Niners at Philly. Then the Pats host the Chargers tonight. The Nets in Memphis right now. A loss earlier today for the Devils. And the Knicks at the Trailblazers this evening. AccuWeather says a windy evening, rain or a snow shower hanging around at a chilly low of 31. Winds news time is 5:01. Let's get you where you need to go with Jeff Jensen.
And Donna, some trouble in New Jersey. Western spur of the turnpike has broken down vehicle southbound right before interchange 15E, taking out the right lane. Crash on 78 westbound, just west of the turnpike toll plaza, has the left lane taken out. Some slowdowns in the Bronx. It's a broken down vehicle on the westbound side of the Cross Bronx, just past the Bronx River Parkway. It's a pretty busy ride there. The Bruckner, if you want to take that, that's trouble-free. The Deacon's a little bit slow near 138th Street in the northbound direction, and some spotty delays both ways on the BQE, pretty much both ways between the LIE and the Prospect, especially busy in the westbound direction approaching the Brooklyn Bridge, eastbound direction approaching Queens Boulevard, getting word of an accident there. Here's what we see on Long Island's Big 3, a good ride, a little slow on the southern state by Eagle Avenue, exit 18, but the LIE and the northern state both move along with no issues on this Sunday afternoon. Jeff Jensen, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
Well, a Monday deadline is looming for a nurses' strike at 3 of the city's biggest hospitals.
We are just 1 day away from the biggest nurse strike in all of New York City history.
Nurses Union head Nancy Hagan's sharing an update this morning on contract talks, but she says it hasn't been going well, with no progress to report.
Our key sticking points and bargaining are all about safety. Safe staffing for our patients, healthcare benefits for frontline nurses, and protection from workplace violence.
Tentative contract agreements have been settled in recent days with a number of other privately run hospitals here in the city and on Long Island, but not so at New York Presbyterian and Mount Sinai in Manhattan or Montefiore in the Bronx. If the deadline comes and goes without a new contract, some 16,000 RNs are scheduled to walk off the job at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. The hospitals have released a joint statement calling the potential nurses' strike reckless and asking union leadership to reconsider. But the facilities do intend to stay open, they say, and Governor Hochul has issued a state disaster declaration just in case. The nurses' contract expired on December 31st. Well, the NYPD now asking for help from the public to find a 9-month-old baby girl missing in the Bronx. Little Luvia Williams vanished Friday night from a home on Bryan Avenue during a visit with her mother. 29-year-old Alexandria Quinones doesn't have custody of her little girl, but allegedly left with her, and neither of them have been seen since. Police are asking that anyone who has seen the mother or daughter or has any information about their whereabouts, please contact Crime Stoppers. Well, the double bus lanes on Madison Avenue are being extended in an effort to speed up the trip. A project was announced today to extend the bus lanes from 42nd to 23rd Streets. Deputy Mayor of Operations Julia Curson says the current situation just isn't working.
Right now, bus speeds here are unacceptable. We're talking about 4 to 5 miles per hour. That's half the citywide average. And that's not just frustrating. It can mean missing a shift at work, arriving late to a doctor's appointment, or your kid being the last one to get picked up after school.
Now, according to the City Department of Transportation, buses on Madison Avenue sometimes crawl at the painstakingly slow pace of 4 miles an hour, so it's no exaggeration to say you could get there faster by walking. Well, President Trump's threat to attack Iran again has now prompted a response, one that also contains a threat. A top Iranian official warning on state television today that the American military in Israel would be, quote, legitimate targets if the U.S. makes good on the president's latest threat. This as nationwide anti-government protests continue in Iran.
Masses gathering in Tehran, inundating the nation's capital, chanting down with the dictator. These protesters risking arrest and even death. The government trying to shut them down with a nationwide communications blackout. cutting off the internet, cell service, and phone lines. As the crackdown intensifies, President Trump escalating his warning to the Iranian regime.
You better not start shooting, because we'll start shooting too.
Human rights groups say dozens of protesters have been killed and thousands more arrested.
Correspondent Selena Wong. The demonstrations in Iran began about 2 weeks ago, initially because of out-of-control inflation and the collapse of the currency in that country. But now they've transformed into a challenge of the religious leaders that have long controlled Iran's government. President Trump posting on social media that the U.S. is ready to help the protesters. Sources saying the president has already been given military options for a strike on Iran, but hasn't made a final decision yet. Well, the president is expected to name a Gaza Board of Peace this week. It would be made up of heads of government and chaired by President Trump with the mission of pushing forward his 20-point peace plan for Gaza. Although the Gaza ceasefire continues to hold, Israel and Hamas remain in a standoff because they disagree about next steps in the region. Well, 1 week after the secret U.S. military operation that captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, President Trump has signed an executive order having to do with Venezuela's oil revenue being held in U.S. Treasury accounts. It says the money cannot be targeted by lawsuits or claims from creditors, so it won't interfere with what the Trump administration says will be the rebuilding of Venezuela. Energy Secretary Chris Wright on NBC's Meet the Press.
And with the United States' influence now by controlling the sale of their oil and therefore the flow of funds into the country, we think we will see relatively rapid change, improvement on the ground in Venezuela. This is a process. We're only 8 days into the process, but it's off to a strong start.
President Trump claims U.S. energy firms are ready to spend $100 billion to revive Venezuela's oil industry, but none have actually committed to doing that just yet. In fact, the CEO of Exxon called Venezuela, quote, uninvestable right now at that meeting at the White House on Friday. American oil companies have long-standing legal claims against the Venezuelan government and are still owed billions after their assets were seized and nationalized in that country 2 decades ago. Well, there's been an arrest after a horrific shooting spree in Mississippi on Friday. The man in custody allegedly went to 3 different locations and shot and killed 6 people, including 4 of his own relatives.
Investigators in Mississippi are saying that this is one of the worst mass shootings in state history. What we're learning is that 24-year-old Derrica Moore is their suspect. They don't know a motive right now, but they say that he was apprehended without incident at a checkpoint that they had set up for public safety around that area. We track a lot of this stuff through the Gun Violence Archive, and thus far in 2026, this is the deadliest mass shooting in America.
Correspondent Alex Prescia. Among the 6 victims were the suspect's own father, brother, uncle, and 7-year-old cousin, as well as a pastor and the pastor's brother. Now this message. John Thurber Cancer Center. Call 833-CANCER-MD for nationally recognized care. 43 degrees. We expect to drop to a low of 31 tonight in Midtown traffic, and the full AccuWeather forecast next. So would you believe that a tiny New Jersey island with perfect views of Philly belongs to Venezuela? There's now a legal battle over its ownership. More on that coming up. But first, Wins News Time, 5:11. Let's get you where you need to go with Jeff Jensen.
All jammed up here in Queens. It's an eastbound crash on the BQE, midway between the LIE and Queens Boulevard. A couple of lanes are out there, and the other way around is jammed up going westbound down by the Brooklyn Bridge. Looks like there was an accident there, all cleared out of the way, but you're still backed up past Tillery Street. Kenneth called on the tip line about this problem in New Jersey on Route 4, right there by Bell Avenue. Gave us a lot of detail on that, too, Kenneth. Thank you at 844-JAM-1010, 844-526-1010. It's eastbound Route 4 at Bell Avenue in Teaneck. Only the left lane is getting by there. And here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. 15-minute ride out of the city to the upper level of the GWB. And we're getting busy on the inbound upper level, too, 10 to 15. The lower level is definitely better. The Lincoln, about 15 minutes each way. The Holland Tunnel is a little slow getting out of town, 10 to 15, pretty much each way there. Jammed trying to get to Brooklyn using the Brooklyn Bridge. The Williamsburg and Manhattan bridges are definitely better options. Jeff Jensen, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
Now let's get a check of the AccuWeather forecast as it gets colder outside. Here's meteorologist John Feerick.
We've had a couple of snow showers moving through the tri-state area here the last couple of hours. Most of those at this point have been to the north and west of the city. There's been some rain mixed in. Temperatures are above the freezing mark, so that's good news. Shouldn't really have too much in terms of wet road or snow covering roads or anything like that, but certainly it will reduce the visibility any snow shower that rolls through. So definitely want to keep that in mind here. If you do encounter a snow shower, be prepared for quick drop in visibility. Want to reduce those speeds. Windy and cold tonight, down to 31. Then brisk and chilly tomorrow. Sunshine up to 41. Sunshine for Tuesday, we're up to 46. And then still dry Wednesday up to 48. But a coastal storm could bring some rain or snow to the area Thursday into Thursday night. Right now in Central Park, 42 and partly cloudy, going out to 31 tonight in Midtown. I'm AccuWeather's John Feerick on New York's weather station, 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM.
So here's a fun fact. Did you know that there's a small 300-acre island in the Delaware River with beautiful views of Philly that's owned by a firm controlled by Venezuela? It is true, but it may soon be going to a Trump donor. A story in the Philadelphia Inquirer says a judge has approved a $5.9 billion bid to take over the parent company of Citgo, which owns Petty Island, as it's called, to settle billions in debts. Venezuelan officials have denounced the sale, calling it fraudulent, and they've appealed the decision. The company that made that winning bid is owned by Trump insider Paul Singer. He and his firm have contributed tens of millions of dollars to conservative political causes, including the 2024 Trump campaign. Now, Petty Island is officially part of New Jersey, which wants to turn it into an urban nature reserve. But it was once owned by the founder of Pennsylvania, William Penn, and Benjamin Franklin was a visitor. Well, it's been just about a year now since the California wildfires that devoured entire neighborhoods, but many victims say it still feels like yesterday.
Donnie Kinsey says he has struggled mentally since losing his home in Altadena.
I've seen too much. That night was just way too much. I don't really have any hopes for things anymore. This has kind of driven it out of me, from insurance issues to price gouging.
Trauma therapist Melissa Lopez also lost her home to the Eaton fire.
A year for a tragedy of this level, like people are just supposed to be okay? Absolutely not.
She's been reaching out to Altadena's community of color, where she says mental health challenges haven't always been openly discussed or treated.
Correspondent Michael Wallace. Look up in the sky. It's not a bird or a plane. It's going to be hundreds of drones tonight. That's what people will be saying in Greenpoint, where some 300 synchronized drones will put on an overhead light show. It's to celebrate a pledge to raise $1 billion for kids' hospitals by the Children's Miracle Network, headed by Amy Daly, who spoke to 1010 Winds about the drone show.
It's really about getting people to make the pledge. It's asking people to recognize that there's an unstable funding landscape going on as it relates to children's health care, and children's health care needs are more complex. They're often more urgent, and we need our communities to work together.
The show starts at 6:15 tonight. About an hour from now, it'll go for about 12 minutes, and it'll be visible for several blocks around the Greenpoint waterfront. Well, bus service hasn't been affected reportedly, but word that the MTA has been busy making repairs this weekend in Hell's Kitchen at its largest bus depot. According to the Daily News, defects were found a couple of days ago on a ramp leading into the facility. They expect the repairs to be finished sometime tomorrow. That depot houses about 350 buses that operate along a dozen routes in Manhattan. From the heartbeat of Harlem to the energy of Washington Heights, we are New York's all-news station.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Good afternoon, 43 degrees at 5:20. I'm Donna Vaughn. And here's what's happening on this Sunday evening. Negotiations continue to keep a nurses' strike from taking effect tomorrow here in the city. But the latest update from the union doesn't sound all that optimistic.
The greedy CEOs are putting the nurses on strike.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem again defending the ICE agent that shot a woman to death in Minneapolis, and adds she plans to send more immigration agents into that city. A protest held here in New York City today. Well, President Trump still threatening to force an American takeover of Greenland, a Danish territory. That'll be the topic of discussion at talks this week between the U.S. and Denmark. Big money for 5 nonprofit groups in Brooklyn. They've won $100,000 each to continue their good work. And in 1010 Winds Entertainment, The Running Man with Glenn Powell racing from theaters to Paramount Plus this week. NFL wildcard action today. Buffalo is moving on with a 27-24 win over the Jaguars. Now it's San Francisco against the Eagles, followed by the Chargers at New England tonight. The Nets are now taking on the Grizzlies, and then the Knicks will play in Portland. Earlier, a loss for the Devils in Winnipeg. AccuWeather says cloudy, blustery, and cold tonight. Low 31, maybe a rain or snow shower in the area. Wins News Time is 5:21. Let's get you where you need to go with Jeff Jensen.
Slow ride in Queens, both ways in the Van Wyck, jammed into Atlantic Avenue. Normally a work zone, but nobody working there on this Sunday evening. We have some slow traffic in Queens on eastbound LA by Queens Boulevard, westbound Expressway by the Clearview. And if you're coming off the Throgs Neck, choose the Clearview over the Cross Island. Cross Island's pretty busy from the Bayside Marina right on down to the LIE. Better in New Jersey and Route 4, problem by Bell Avenue Teaneck has been cleared. Accident on 78 is westbound right into the Turnpike Toll Plaza. The right lane is blocked there. Broken in vehicle on the western spur is southbound right before 15E. That takes out the right lane. Here's what we see on Long Island's Big Three. Pretty good ride for you right now with no issues on the LIE. Northern and Southern State move well. And here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. About a 15-minute ride out of the city at the GWB. 10 into the upper level. Upper's a little bit busier than the lower both ways. Outbound Holland, that's up to about a 15-minute wait. Same thing at the Lincoln inbound. You're fine. Brooklyn Bridge is slow to Brooklyn. And Gothels, Adams, and Verrazano all doing well on this Sunday evening. Jeff Jensen, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
We are still talking, but nearly 16,000 nurses in New York City could walk off the job tomorrow morning. Contract talks have been taking place all weekend, but so far the union says they've come up empty.
This would not be the first strike for city nurses, but it would be the largest. Nancy Higgins is the president of the NYSNA.
Nearly 15,000 nurses are set to strike
at these hospitals:
Mount Sinai Hospital, Mount Sinai, Morningside, and West, Montefiore, and New York Presbyterian.
Now, Higgins says management's investing over $100 million in replacement nurses, a slap in the face to those striking.
These are the same bosses who are saying that they cannot afford to pay toward our medicals.
And she says if you're a patient that needs care, don't let this get in the way. Seek help. Amanda Alexander, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
Now, the affected hospitals have released a joint statement calling the potential strike reckless and asking the union to reconsider. Stick with 1010 Wins, and we'll continue to follow this story and bring you the latest on those contract talks. A former governor of New Jersey has died. The family of Dick Cody says he died peacefully at home this morning at age 79 after a brief illness. The Essex County native served as governor for 14 months, stepping up from his position as state Senate president in 2004 when scandal-plagued Jim McGreevey resigned. When he left politics, Cody was the longest-serving state lawmaker ever in the history of the Garden State. This was part of his farewell speech.
For me, it's been a lifetime of complete enjoyment and something I will never forget. I don't know how many years I have left. I hope a long time. But we all can understand and appreciate the position we're in and what we can do.
Cody was first elected to the state assembly in 1973 before moving to the Senate about a decade after that. He was also an early supporter of the current governor, Mikey Sherrill. Funeral arrangements are still being made. Well, another No Kings protest in the city this afternoon near 60th Street and 5th Avenue in response to the fatal shooting of a woman by an ICE agent last week in Minneapolis. State officials in Minnesota have launched a probe into the confrontation that ended in the death of Renee Good, but say the feds are throwing up roadblocks.
State investigators say federal officials have denied them access to evidence in the investigation of Good's death.
The current posture is that the investigation is one that the feds want to do without state involvement.
Sources tell CBS News the Department of Homeland Security is planning to send hundreds of additional U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents to the Twin Cities this month, adding to a footprint of roughly 2,400 DHS personnel.
Correspondent Nicole Skanga. Now today, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem again defended the agent that shot and killed Renee Good.
If you look at what the definition of domestic terrorism is, it completely fits the situation on the ground. This individual, as you saw in the video that we released just 48 hours after this incident, showed that this officer was hit by her